Is he a comedian?
Yeah.
Because he ain't never made me laugh, so usually don't like me. You know what I'm saying? Like, the people that, they usually don't like me when they coming from that angle. That's cool, though. You know, everybody got their opinion, and they all stink. You know what I'm saying? At the end of the day, it's cool. You know, he entitled to his opinion. It's the feeling is mutual. You know, I don't think he on anybody's list of top 10 comedians.
Today started off calm until Aries Spears decided to light the whole block on fire. Before Ice Cube even had a chance to speak, Spears was already throwing verbal Molotovs straight at him. It all went down on Vlad TV, a spot where Spears had never really made waves before. But this time, he didn't just dip a toe in, he cannonballed straight into controversy. Forget giving a casual opinion. Dude bulldozed Cube's artistry like he was clearing out an old building. It was the type of moment that makes interviewers lean all the way forward, knowing they just caught gold for tomorrow's headlines. Spears didn't hesitate, didn't sugarcoat, and definitely didn't try to hide it behind jokes. It was raw, straight-up disrespect aimed at a man many call a West Coast legend. Even the host had to step in, pointing out Spears was chopping up the lyrics. But Spears didn't care. That was the whole point. Make the track sound goofy to the same fans who grew up worshiping it. Like tagging over a street mural everyone loved, and just when you thought it couldn't get wilder, Spears took aim at Cube's acting, and that's when the roast turned real personal. For Spears, the problem wasn't just Ice Cube. It was the whole trend of throwing rappers into comedy roles instead of giving the shine to real trained comedians. He painted it like a creative crime scene, swapping sharp professional timing for lazy, cheap slapstick. And with every word he dropped, he made it clear, this wasn't friendly roasting, this was a straight-up hit job. But what Spears didn't realize? Cube was definitely gonna hear all of it. And when Cube came back, he didn't yell, didn't get wild, didn't even crack a smile. Nah, he hit way colder than that. It happened in a quiet radio studio, mid-interview, right after someone read Spears' exact words back to him. Instead of matching Aries' energy, Cube flipped the script and cool, calm, and cutting so deep the insult felt like a slow burn. It was the verbal equivalent of a point-blank headshot. No hype, no noise, just a clean kill shot of words. In under 30 seconds, Cube dismantled Spears' whole argument, stripped it of any weight, and then dropped one single word: sucka. The moment that clip hit the internet, it was over. Memes exploded everywhere, plastering Spears' face with that sucka label in bold, like a digital scar he couldn't shake. The comments section turned into a war zone. Fans weren't just defending Cube's legacy, they were roasting Aries Spears for even picking this fight in the first place. But it didn't stop with the fans. The industry started paying attention too, and the people stepping up for Cube, they weren't just fellow rappers, they were names that could make life very uncomfortable for Spears. The first wave hit when Michael Jai White, actor, martial arts legend, and a man you never want to corner, made it crystal clear he was riding with Cube. But instead of backing off, Spears lost his mind and doubled down, actually threatening to pull up on White. To anyone watching, it looked insane. A comedian with zero fight history trying to intimidate a dude who could probably handle a whole squad by himself. Then the phone rang. Willie D from the Ghetto Boys was on the line. And unlike Michael Jai White's quiet, unshakable presence, Willie came at him like family had been disrespected, direct, personal, and with that tone that made Spears feel like he'd just insulted somebody's mama. You know, Willie D called me. That's how Spears started telling it, like the phone call from a rap legend was just another funny story for his interviews. But truth is, the call didn't shake him one bit. If anything, it gave him more fuel for his next punchlines. To everyone on the outside, though, the picture was crystal clear. The more Aries ran his mouth, the smaller his circle got. Then, like the universe decided to play referee, Ice Cube's latest movie dropped. And what happened next was the perfect opening for Spears to pounce. Hollywood headlines lit up with a rare disaster. Cube's brand new flick landed a 0% rating on Rotten Tomatoes. Not mixed reviews, not kinda bad, 0. Nothing. A straight-up wipeout. For Spears, it was like the internet had just handed him a golden ticket to scream, "See, I told you," and he grabbed it with both hands. He turned it into a full-blown victory lap, framing it as pure vindication as the ultimate "I told you so." But here's where it backfired. Instead of looking like he'd scored a win, he started looking obsessed. Every post, every comment, every little dig, it was like he was chasing Cube's shadow. Even people who admitted Cube's acting had limits started saying the same thing. Spears wasn't proving a point anymore. He was just making himself look bitter. Nobody was seeing a sharp comedian dropping witty shots anymore. They were seeing a man who had turned this feud into his entire personality. And while Spears was busy basking in his little Rotten Tomatoes gotcha moment, the comedy world was lining up to drop a fresh wave of humiliation on him. First in the ring, Corey Holcomb, a comedian who never sugarcoats a single word. He didn't just roast Spears for disrespecting Cube. He straight up challenged him to a boxing match. No metaphors, no jokes, just step in the ring. Then Faison Love jumped in swinging even harder, calling Spears a raccoon and flat out questioning what he's ever done for the culture compared to Cube. And buried under all that smoke was a rumor that started spreading fast. People were saying that back in the day, Spears and Dave Chappelle would land big deals, but there was one deal Spears never got: a spot in Cube's legendary Friday movie series. According to Corey, Spears might still be holding a grudge over it. Pure speculation, sure, but the timing was wild. Ice Cube had just announced new progress on the next Friday installment, and Spears' name nowhere in sight. Whether it was true or not, the rumor gave this feud a whole new plot twist, and fans ate it up like it was breaking news. Now the debate wasn't just about whether Spears' critique was fair. People were starting to question his real motives. And for anyone who's been tracking Aries Spears' career, this wasn't his first time taking a shot at a legend and ending up in dangerous territory. Long before he started trading verbal jabs with Ice Cube, Spears had already learned, or should have learned, that disrespecting a hip-hop icon can have very real consequences. Years back, Spears did a stage bit mocking DMX. To him, it was just another impression, another laugh in the set. But off stage, word traveled fast to the Rough Riders camp, and they weren't smiling. According to Spears himself, some members of DMX's crew approached him in a way that left no room for confusion. This wasn't a friendly "let's talk" moment. One guy even pulled off something straight out of a prison flick, sliding open his mouth to reveal a razor blade tucked between his lip like a warning shot without words. And yet, here Spears was years later, going even harder at Ice Cube, acting like that first brush with a legend's wrath had never happened. He stood in the same defensive stance, framing every backlash as people just can't handle the truth. But to outsiders, it didn't look brave. It looked like a man who refused to learn his lesson, no matter how close he'd come to getting cut before. No matter how hard Spears tried to spin the Cube beef as a serious debate about artistic critique, his own contradictions kept blowing up the whole argument. Right in the middle of the chaos, he tried to do some damage control, and it all went down during an appearance on Fat Joe and Jadakiss's podcast.
Before the mics were even hot, Joe pulled Spears to the side. The message was simple. If Cube ever came on the show, they didn't want bad blood turning it awkward. So Joe asked him to sprinkle in something respectful about Cube. Spears agreed, but the way he pulled it off only made him look even shakier.
In Spears' mind, he was just drawing a clean line. I respect Cube as a man, but I don't like his work. But to a lot of people listening, it sounded like a straight-up contradiction. One minute, he's calling Cube an icon and a superhero. The next, he's doubling down, saying Cube has zero range and ain't a good actor. Fans clocked it instantly. Screenshots of his quotes started popping up side by side, painting Spears like a man talking out of both sides of his mouth, and the internet loves catching someone in that kind of 180. Once that kind of narrative starts snowballing online, there's almost no stopping it. Spears fired back by leaning even harder into his hate is just the truth people can't handle defense, claiming that if your opinion isn't flattering, folks will slap a label on you. But by now, it wasn't just about opinion. It was about timing, tone, and the fact that nearly the entire hip-hop and comedy world had picked a side. And it wasn't his. That growing isolation was about to look even worse when an old controversy from Spears' past came roaring back into the spotlight. One that had nothing to do with Ice Cube, but explained exactly why so many people were quick to dogpile on him. See, by the time Spears started taking shots at Cube, his public image was already dragging some serious baggage. Just 3 years earlier, in 2022, Spears and Tiffany Haddish had been hit with a highly publicized lawsuit over a controversial comedy sketch involving underage actors. The skit, which had been online for years before being pulled, had themes that many said crossed way past the line of comedy. The lawsuit accused Spears and Haddish of knowingly including the kids in inappropriate scenes. Both of them denied it, and eventually the case was dropped. But the stain on Spears' reputation didn't fade. By the time the Cube feud came around, plenty of people already had their minds made up about him. Mainstream heavyweights like ABC News, NBC News, and the Los Angeles Times had already blasted the story everywhere. Headlines linking Spears' name to those accusations were all over Google. And even though there was never a trial and no finding of guilt, the public perception stuck. In today's climate, viral headlines hit harder than retractions ever could. For a lot of people, that old case made Spears an easy target. It chipped away at his credibility and armed his critics with ammo that had nothing to do with Ice Cube. So when this feud exploded, it wasn't happening in a vacuum. It was playing out in front of an audience already primed to side-eye him. And just when it felt like things couldn't get more personal, another moment from Spears' past resurfaced. This one straight out of the comedy world, a clip where a former colleague went in on him live, on camera, in a way even harsher than Cube ever did. The setting couldn't have been further from a Vlad TV-style rap debate. There was no hip-hop backdrop, no beef about acting, just raw, unfiltered words that cut deep. No Rotten Tomatoes scores, no Ice Cube in sight. This was a mad TV reunion on Bobby Lee's Tiger Belly podcast, a cozy nostalgia trip with old castmates. At least, that's how it started. Then Deborah Wilson, one of Spears' former co-stars, shattered the mood like glass. She didn't ease into it, didn't clean it up for the cameras. She looked Spears dead in the eye and called him spiritually bankrupt. What came next was even heavier. In the back and forth, Spears admitted, right there in front of everyone, that he'd been a serial cheater and a bad father. No punchlines, no playful roasting, just raw, uncomfortable truth spilling out into the open. For fans, it was shocking. For critics, it was confirmation. Aries Spears wasn't just beefing with Ice Cube. He was fighting his own past, his own peers, and the weight of his own reputation. By this point, the list of celebrities publicly backing Cube or openly dragging Spears had grown so long, it stopped feeling like a feud and started looking like a full-on cultural pile-on, with Aries pinned at the very bottom. And even after weeks of headlines, memes, and relentless clapbacks, Spears kept swinging, desperate for the last word. But the last word that stuck, it didn't come from him. It came from Ice Cube, calm, clipped, and almost bored, dropping a dismissal so cold it froze the feud where it stood and left Spears with nothing to play off but silence. After all the interviews, the impressions, the clapbacks, the memes, and the industry piling on, the moment people remember most isn't Aries Spears talking, it's Ice Cube, sitting in that radio studio cool as ever, not breaking a sweat, not even leaning into the mic like he had some big drop coming, just calmly taking Spears apart in under 30 seconds. And then came the line, "Suckers usually don't like me." That became the headline, the meme, the soundbite that stuck to Spears like a tattoo he never asked for. Every time the feud popped back up online, someone would drop it in the comments. It was short, sharp, and deadly, the kind of line you can't respond to without looking defensive. What started for Spears as a bit, a chance to stir the pot, call out a legend, and speak his mind, ended up as a masterclass in how fast a career can get buried under the wrong kind of attention. because you can call out a legend if you want. You can roast their work, double down, and even laugh when the critics take your side. But if the culture decides they're riding with the other guy, your words don't just miss, they boomerang right back and stick to you forever.